So today's topic is becoming solution oriented. What does it mean? In fact, I got this topic from Shahira when I was having one-on-one with her. And it took me quite some time to prepare this because there would be, articles available. Just I pick up some points and then just present it. But I wanted to make it more meaningful in the sense that we need to understand every aspect of it. So I'll try my best to explain it. So just bear with me. Okay, so let's start with this extract from a book which I actually started reading about 2 months back. And this paragraph over here is the first paragraph from the first chapter. And when I read it, it made a lot of meaning to me, and I was really means I did not think in this perspective anytime before. But so I will just read it out slowly so that you all can understand, and you all also think about this paragraph from your perspective. So it starts with, there is only one you. The day your company hired you, someone else did not get the job because you were the best candidate. They hired you because you had the best combination of skills, personality, and potential, and a unique blend of values and abilities over any other person they interviewed. The company felt that you could best execute the job, fulfill their need for talent, and satisfy their specific need for a discrete skill set. You got the job because you had a competitive advantage over all of the other candidates. That important competitive advantage, you. No one else can be you the way you can. This is a source of power within the organization. So, a lot of us, I think, even when I started my career, I took for granted that I was selected, and I did not think in the perspective that the way this paragraph was written. So, I wanted to start with this because it has a deep meaning, and let's try to understand why it actually matters, why this paragraph matters. So most of us, when we get hired, we don't get hired just through one interview, right? So you come to HR, the HR reviews your CV, and the HR says, okay, you're selected. That never happens. You go through a series of challenge, series of interviews. So it is not just for the skills that we are selected. So like whether it is our degree or certification, it is not only on the basis of that, but it is also on the ability to find solutions and solve problems. So there is a way how when the hiring process happens, there is a conversation happening, and we don't talk just about your our degree or our certification. We talk about lot other aspects. So there is a kind of sense to understand, okay, how we are as a person, and that is how we get hired. And when we get into the team, even our perspective, like how we get involved within the team, and how we try to make sure that we are part of the team, as well as give our own perspective to some situations, or some challenges that is happening over there. So the most important statement, or what we need to catch from here, is that our problem solving abilities are the key reason why we are chosen for the job. Because we when we are interviewed, as I mentioned before, a lot of aspects are seen. So based on that, it is our selection happens. So this is a key point that we should remember. Now the next part is, I have highlighted continuous contribution. So when we are part of a team, right, everything doesn't go smooth all the time, right? So you have some challenges that is coming in the way, either like in each of the department, whether it is development or QA or business, any department has some challenges, either towards a project or some client requirement. So there is a discussion happening. Now when this discussion happens, how much we are being part of that discussion, that also matters the most. So how much we are contributing within that team. Are we remaining silent all the time? Are we not sharing what is coming in our mind, like some thoughts or some ideas? That also matters. So continuous contribution is another aspect where it really matters. And sorry, so this is, so when it in the first paragraph it mentioned there is only one you, right? That you makes yourself unique. So because each one as a human being, though we are, made of flesh and blood, but we all have our own mind which works in a different way, which is unique, right? So that perspective really matters. Now, what is the reality? Now, it is a no-brainer that the workplace, any organization right now is moving at very high speeds, right? Lot of things are changing around in the world, and every day there is a new thing that is happening around, right? Now, whether it is this organization or any organization in general, they will always look for three things from all of us, right? Any team member, right? So one is boosting productivity. That means how can we improve our work? Like how good are we? Certain things what we could do, let's say in 1 hour, am I able to do it in 45 minutes? Am I improving my ability to make that work in 30 minutes, right? So that improving or boosting productivity or how productive we are ourselves, that is one part. Fostering innovation, that means are we trying out some new things or new ways to do the way we are doing our regular work, or are we, with that same routine we are doing? Okay, so that is another aspect. And the other aspect is whether we are adjusting to changing challenges. So when I talk about organizations or business, each business has its own challenge, right? So and they are not the same. Sometimes they are same, sometimes they are different. But each organization has its own challenge, and there is a new route which any company takes to get adapted to it. And how we are adapting to it, or how are we changing ourselves to be adaptive in that situation, that also matters. So the next statement, the emphasis is not just on fixing problems or jugaad, right? So in we have a slang language, jugaad. So it's not just fixing the problems, whatever, challenges we are coming. We need to be like, okay, there is a problem and we need to find a solution where, it doesn't get repeated again. So let's say in general, whether I'm working on particular task on a workboard action item which is assigned to me by my senior or any one of us, how many times, the task goes to and fro, right? So if we are doing a jugaad, then the task will go to and fro many times. But if we are giving a proper solution or we are executing the task in the right perspective, then that to and fro will be reduced. So the focus here is finding opportunities for improvement, as I mentioned before, and having this new mindset towards being more solution oriented, like how can we do our work better. Okay, so in a way it will help ourselves. That means we will feel more satisfied, that okay, I have tried a new way and it helped me to save some time, or I found a new way to do this thing which will be very helpful for me as well as for the team. So that is the perspective. But let's go to this screen. Now, as human beings, right, there are two aspects of it. It is either the positive side or the negative side. Okay, we think both ways. But sometimes it so happens that our negative bias takes more attention. Now, if you look at this picture over here, right? So this one is the heart and this one is the brain. Now the heart is looking at so many good things which is here and is saying, brain, look at this. There are so many good things here. But the brain is so busy in focusing on one bad thing that it is not having time to see so many good things. So if we relate sometimes to our own self, we also do this. Okay, so even I have done this, so it's not something new, but this is a perspective, where it says that we often remember and focus on negative experiences more than the positive ones. So there is a general tendency that since even if it is one bad thing, since our focus is more on that one thing, we feel that, okay, nothing is good, everything is bad around us, right? Okay. Now, what actually happens then when this negativity bias takes over us? So now in this PDC, I'm focusing more on the work side, but it is applicable to our personal lives as well. Okay. So when we come across some challenge or any problem, we we complain about the problem most of the times, but we never come with a solution. Now, if I go back to the first slide, which I talked about, that extract from the book, right? It talked about that we got the job for a specific reason because we had the best skills to do that job, right? Now, if we analyze that paragraph where it talks about that because of our unique skill set, we should be able to generate solutions. That means we should be able to think from our perspective. Now, our perspective could always be incorrect, okay? Not that every time, whenever some solution or idea we give, it is always the perfect one. And in a team environment, everybody's perspective is different, and we need to respect everybody's perspective. But let's say when we are chosen for a particular purpose, that we need to bring in value to the organization and to the work that we are doing. If we go and complain about the things every time and don't come with a solution, that actually will not really work, because it is actually part of our job, right? So let's say if somebody comes every time to me as a manager, okay, I'm a senior hierarchically, okay, but every time if somebody comes to me with a complaint, I would, as a boss, I would not really like, right? Or if even if you as a senior, every time a junior comes to you with a problem and not does not think from their own perspective, okay, this is a problem, I have this solution, whether this is right or wrong. Now this perspective is good, but every time I come with a problem and I seek a solution from from the senior, that perspective would not be right? Do you all agree with this? Okay, so this is the thing. So when this happens, it is bad for the business as well as the organization, because we are putting the burden on somebody else, right? We are not sharing the burden. Because there is a problem, we are not sharing the burden. And I think the most important aspect is this statement, that this personality trait, that is the complaining, has no value in the organization. Imagine you have a team member in your team who is always complaining about something or the other to you. Would you like to be part of that? Like, would you like that team member to be part of your team? You will at some point in time have some kind of, what do you say, some feelings will be there, that why this person is complaining so much, right? So it is again bad for the team. So when it is bad for the team, this gets at the bigger level, at the organization level. Okay, so this is a perspective. Now, this famous quote is from Henry Ford, who is the owner of the Ford automobiles, and he said most of the people spend more time and energy going around problems than in trying to solve them. So this is the initial introduction that I wanted to bring to this PDC, where I'm talking about why being solution oriented is important. Now, this part of from this part, I'm taking it in a different way, where I'm relating to our own work. Okay, so the topic here is how can we approach our task at hand. Now, there are different questions over here, and each question is related to each of the departments. Okay, now I'm not going to explain these questions, but I'm going to read it out, and each of us need to think about these questions and try to feel how it is related to me and what can I do about it. Okay, so I'll just start. So, how can we enhance our recruitment process to attract candidates who naturally think in a solution oriented way? What methods we use to anticipate future client needs and develop or suggest solutions before they even ask? How do we ensure that every interaction with clients leaves them feeling heard and understood, paving the way for effective solutions? How do we ensure that every project plan is flexible enough to adapt and deliver the best possible client outcomes? Sorry. Okay. The next one, how can storytelling in our marketing campaigns highlight our commitment to solving real world problems for clients? What role does innovation play in engineering when it comes to crafting unique solutions tailored for each client's solutions challenges? What steps can be taken during testing phases to not only find bugs but also suggest improvements or alternatives? How does leadership play a role in encouraging teams across departments to focus on delivering client centric solutions? How might collaboration between different departments lead to more comprehensive and creative problem solving for client projects? So all these questions are mainly pertaining to like SJ Innovation or the company like us, where we are more client centric and we are more like where the client comes to us with a project or a problem and we need to find a solution. So this is not restricted to just one department, but it is, focusing on all the departments which are there. Okay. And these are just a few of them. There could be more, but this is just to give an idea about how could we think different in the way we are doing our work currently. Okay. The part about what should we do. Now, the first is understanding the core problem. Now, when we talk about tasks, right, whether I'm working on, mostly I don't work on active collab tasks, I work on workboard action items, okay? Or, y'all are working on active collab tasks. So let's consider in general tasks, fine? So when we receive any tasks, okay, how am I approaching this task? Is it like I'm saying, okay, I have this task, just need to finish it. So I just complete the task as soon as I can and I deliver it. I don't think about the repercussions of, or, as I mentioned before, when we are executing a particular task, how much to and fro are we expecting from it, right? So let's say in general, a development task, if we take, or even if I take a task from me, or when I was doing this PDC or when I was writing this, and I had to get it verified from Shahira, right? So if I just do a basic kind of a work that, okay, I'm just picking up some article points, I'm putting it over here and I'm sharing it with her. But when I'm presenting it to y'all, it is not making enough sense. Then that task is incomplete, right? So when she reviews it, she will review in a perspective where, okay, how team members will take this PDC, okay, content of the PDC. So based on that, so if I talk about this specific PDC, it went into two iterations. So I prepared first, then it went to her. Gave me some suggestions. I worked on it. Again, I sent to her. She gave me one final suggestion, and then it was complete. So how am I approaching this? Approaching the task. That is most important. So this is the idea. What I'm trying to say, that when we get a particular task, how can we make sure that it has minimum iteration? You remember in one of the slides I mentioned about productivity, like how productive we are. So this is something which we need to focus on, that I need to be more productive on a particular task. I need to save time for myself and also for the company. So be more solution oriented, or let's say a task comes to me or an action item comes to me. If I don't really understand what is actually written on it, ask questions. Okay, return it back with by asking questions. Just don't, even in the next point it is saying, but it is more client specific. What I'm trying to say is, when we get a task, try to understand the entirety, like what is the outcome that is needed on that particular task in any perspective. Now, since we are more client focused, I added these points, and this point is, the next two points are essential, where it says active participation in client calls is crucial. Listening actively during discussions. So most of us do attend client calls, right? And when we attend client calls, when we talk about active participation and active listening, there are two aspects to it. One is we are always encouraged to put our video on. Second is active listening only will come when our video is on. Otherwise, if our video is off, we are listening, but we are passively listening and we are doing something else. So this is one of the reasons, okay, where active participation is very crucial, and active listening during discussion. Because if we don't listen actively, then we will not really understand what the client business is, and we will not be able to ask the right questions, right? So, and here it's very important for us, clarify doubts immediately, don't assume. So most of the time, like I think recently it is not happening, but previously when we used to have or go on client calls, we used to just listen to the client calls and get the client perspective, but sometimes the right questions were never asked. And when the actual task execution happens, that time the questions arose, right? So though it may happen right now, but it may happen in a lesser extent. But this is very important aspect: active listening and active participation, understanding the client business correctly, don't make any assumptions, and always ask the question why. Let's say, see, when a client comes to us, like there are two types of clients. Either they know technology, okay, or they do not know technology, they just have an idea. So but in either ways, when the client comes to us, they come to us because we will be able to provide them the right solution, whether it is in terms of technology or in terms of a new way of doing what they are expecting. So let's say the client is already having a website and he wants to add a functionality. Now, even in adding that functionality, the client is talking about explaining it. But when they are explaining, we also should think from behind our mind, okay, how can we make that better? What would really, because that person or the client will have just a basic idea that I just want to do this. It is our job to, because based on our own experience, to give more perspective to it or give new ideas towards it. So this topic is there in the next slide. I'll go to that. The next part is aligning projects with the client needs. So aligning projects with the client needs. So if we, in the second part where we were talking about active listening or active participation, if this doesn't happen, the next one will not go in the right way. So we will be working on the client projects, but what the client is expecting will not be the end result. So this is also another factor. So what can we do over here is we need to always, as I mentioned, the first part about the task wise, that is one part, that is how our work impacts the client problems. Is the client really getting what he is expecting from our work? That is one part. So, and also the project execution should connect with the needs, with the client needs to solutions. So even though in the first part, when we are getting the client requirements and we finalize the project, or and we are working on it, it may so happen that when we are actually executing or working on the project, we can get some newer ideas. That newer ideas also could be helpful for the client. And regularly check if we are still on track. So in most cases, either the assistant managers or the project managers are regularly going on client calls. Okay, they may go without a team to understand their perspective, because sometimes in a team environment they may not really open up. So what we could do is we could always ask the next day to our AM or the PM, okay, you had a client call. Was there any particular feedback? Is there something that we should worry about? Or is this something that we should, know where we can make this project better? So this regular check we need to, make. So this is one another part, adding value beyond expectations. So this, some part of it I have already discussed, but here it talks more about always think about additional solutions that we can offer, enhance value to the functionalities, suggest improvements or new features proactively. So I feel most of us are already doing, but we should always think in this perspective all the time. The next part, I think, the team perspective. So as I mentioned before, that each of us, our thinking perspective can be always different, and we shouldn't restrict ourselves to share what we are thinking. So each team has a hierarchy, right? So there is a manager, AM, TL, PM, and then you have the junior staff. So sometimes it so happens that the hierarchy is in our mind, and we restrict ourselves to share what we are thinking in such an environment, thinking, okay, what my boss will think. But if you consider, especially SJ innovation, even though there is a hierarchy, right? But each of us call each other in our own name, right? We don't call sir, madam. So in general, it is just a hierarchy for execution or role execution or responsibility execution. But in general sense, we all are equal. So the reason why I'm highlighting over here is that as a junior, one should never feel that I cannot share what is in my mind and what other person will think about it. In one of the slides, I spoke about continuous contribution. This is one aspect, is an observation that some senior will do always about us. Now, let's say if I am attending a leaders meeting or I'm attending any other meeting, I come to the meeting, I'm silent and I don't share anything. I'm wasting my time, and the perspective of my senior or anybody in that particular meeting will be that he has nothing to say. He has no value in the organization, right? So that is going to be a perspective. So whether you're a junior or a senior, don't think about, okay, what people will think about when I share some idea or a solution. Always open up your mind and speak about it. And that actually contribution could be, some unique thing which would be the best amongst everybody also. So I want to share one example over here. We were actually in one of the offsite meeting, we were reading a book called The Toyota Way. Okay. And it actually talked about how this Toyota manufacturing production floor actually works. So if you see, the production floor has people who are, if you consider low rank level, who are actually doing the physical work, right? And you have the production manager, you have the other people. But if we actually go to see the whether it is the production manager or somebody who is a CEO of that particular organization, we'll never know what problems are happening at the production floor, right? So who knows what happens at the production floor and who can give a better solution at the production floor? It's not the CEO. It is always the people who are working on the ground. So this is one of the reasons why I'm saying, why I shared this example of Toyota is there were a lot of problems when they released their cars. So they had to fix that problems in those cars. So what they did was they went to the ground level. They tried to identify what was the problem. And the people who gave, like who were actually working on the floor, gave the best solutions, which actually then they were able to deliver better cars. So why I'm sharing this example is, like, again, that the team effort or team contribution is very essential. Don't think about the hierarchy and thinking creatively again. So as I mentioned that everybody's contribution is important, and out of the box thinking is also very important. So even the most junior person could give the best idea than somebody a senior in that particular meeting. So that is something which we should always keep in mind. So I put it in this way. So we have a choice. Can anybody tell me what these two pictures indicate? Okay, so I'll actually decode this picture for you. So the first picture on the left, the person in the middle is saying, okay, we have a problem. What should we do? Okay. So, and everybody is just either looking at each other or, somebody is trying to say something. But the second picture says, okay, there is a problem. Okay, let's together sit together and find a solution. So this is a choice we have. So how can we be more solution oriented? Is this way.